What if the crown jewel of hip-hop was never as untouchable as we thought? What if a single buried tape, linking Beyoncé, Pimp C, and Diddy's dark empire, could unravel the Carter dynasty and shake the entire industry to its core? Is this the scandal no one was ever supposed to see? Stick around. What we're about to uncover changes everything. This rumor, it doesn't just make waves, it shows up like a SWAT team at a pool party, fully armed and zero chill. Apparently, while the FBI was busy playing housekeeper in Diddy's empire, sweeping up all the Ryko mess, they may have accidentally tripped over something no one was ever supposed to find. Enter an alleged explicit relic featuring none other than Beyoncé and the late Pimp C. Yep, not AI-generated, not deep-faked, but a good old-fashioned blast from the early 2000s past, straight out of Diddy's rumored blackmail vault, because of course he has one of those. And here's where the tea goes from piping hot to molten lava. This isn't just two celebs got freaky once upon a time. If this tape is real, and that's a nuclear-sized if, it yanks Queen Bey right into the same shady after-hours circus that's currently under federal investigation. You know, the one allegedly filled with manipulation, uninvited cameras, and enough NDAs to wallpaper a mansion. As for the timing, couldn't be worse if it tried. The Carters have run their empire like the Buckingham Palace of pop culture, pristine, untouchable, and airbrushed to divine perfection. But now, that flawless exterior might just have a hairline fracture, and the public is pressing their faces against the glass for a better look. The whispers are practically screaming at this point, and they're not coming from your average gossip blog. Word is, this tape didn't leak like some clout-chasing intern's mistake. Nope, it was apparently plucked straight from the FBI's digital treasure trove, part of the miles of footage, terabytes of files, and laundry lists of names they scooped up while raiding Diddy's various lairs. But out of all that mess, this tape? This one has industry execs sweating through their designer suits, PR teams mainlining espresso, and the Carter machine throwing every dollar and distraction tactic it can muster. And here's where the math gets spicy. Why exactly would Jay-Z allegedly wave around $500 million to make this tape disappear? That's not please go away money. That's this will crater empires money. Because it's not just about Queen Bey's well-oiled image of perfection and poise. If this footage ties her to Diddy's infamous nightlife underworld, or worse, if it even hints at Jay-Z's name appearing on a guest list, in a conversation, or standing anywhere near a velvet rope, then we're no longer in Page 6 territory, we're in federal indictment adjacent. That's when this whole saga mutates from messy celebrity scandal to potential RICO fallout. And just to pour salt in the timeline, some in-the-know insiders are now pointing back to those old-school whispers from the early 2000s, before Crazy in Love, before the billion-dollar power couple branding. Back when there were quiet rumors of friction and a certain brief, eyebrow-raising connection between Beyoncé and Pimp C, while UGK was riding high. Suddenly, what sounded like fan fiction now looks a little too plausible for comfort. If this recording lines up with that murky little window in Carter history, we're not just talking about a scandal. We're talking about a narrative detonation, one that doesn't just singe Jay-Z's empire, but potentially rewrites the origin myth of music's most meticulously curated power couple. And then there's the shadow draped over it all, the fact that Pimp C died suddenly on December 4th, 2007, coincidentally Jay-Z's birthday. Officially, a mix of sleep apnea and substances. Unofficially, let's just say the whispers never stopped. They just got quieter as the years went on. Pimp C wasn't exactly known for playing nice with industry puppeteers. In his final months, he was loud, direct, and, if rumors are to be believed, holding on to some serious leverage. The kind of man who didn't just have dirt, he threatened to bury people with it. So now, as the FBI blows the dust off Diddy's alleged vault of secrets and this tape conveniently reemerges, that long-dismissed coincidence of Pimp's untimely death starts looking less like a sad footnote and more like a breadcrumb in a story the industry hoped would stay buried. Let's be clear. The feds aren't chasing clout. They don't follow TMZ headlines. They follow leverage, patterns, and the kind of receipts that come with timestamps and HD clarity. If this footage exists, it's not just salacious, it's strategic. It could be part of a broader puzzle showing exactly what went down at those now infamous late-night gatherings. Who was there? What happened? Who looked the other way? Meanwhile, on the surface, Beyoncé is out here launching legacy branding ventures wrapped in sweet tea and southern elegance. Her latest project, a carefully timed, family heritage-inspired line dripping in symbolism and wholesomeness. Because nothing says business as usual like a perfectly packaged distraction while the walls quietly start closing in. Some branding experts are already raising eyebrows, and not in admiration. They're calling Beyoncé's recent rollout what it likely is: a preemptive strike, a carefully manicured attempt to absorb the fallout before it hits. Take the narrative, polish it up, stitch it into the family quilt, and serve it as Southern heritage. Sweet tea with a hint of scandal. The Pimp C connection, suddenly less tabloid fodder, more ancestral homage. It's not damage control, it's frame control, before the frame controls her. But let's not confuse poise with peace. To some, this doesn't scream confidence. It reeks of panic perfume. And then there's blue ivy, suddenly everywhere. On carpets, on stages, in curated photo ops that ooze legacy building. It's giving, look at the next generation, while the spotlight on the current one gets a little too hot. Beyoncé remains the unbothered goddess. Jay plays the mute king, and their daughter becomes the soft focus buffer between public curiosity and private chaos. It's a bold tactic. Distract the world with the air, not the headlines. But when you start using your children as shields in a PR war, you're no longer just protecting your legacy. You're risking dragging the next generation into the very storm you're trying to escape. And lurking on the fringe, as always, is Kanye, the exiled oracle of chaos. Once a brother, now the loudest voice shouting from the outside in. His cryptic bars about Hollywood sacrifices, secret societies, and the dark currency of fame were once waved off as delusions. But if this tape is real, if the whispers turn into verified facts, suddenly Kanye doesn't sound unhinged, he sounds early. And if he ever chooses to stop hinting and start naming, to pull the tangled threads in public and let the whole mess unravel live, the Carters won't just be deflecting a scandal, they'll be scrambling to protect the throne from collapsing under the weight of its own mythology. They're not just managing a scandal anymore, they're bracing for survival. That's the real threat here. Not the alleged tape itself, but the chain reaction it could trigger, the fault lines it could expose. Because when your empire is built on pristine image and flawless legacy, it only takes one file, one undeniable frame to turn myth into memory. The Carters' kingdom isn't just under scrutiny, it's standing on a fault line. And if that thing snaps, it won't be a fall, it'll be a collapse. And the tremors? They won't stop at Beyoncé and Jay-Z. This isn't just some tabloid drama. It's a seismic threat to the architecture of modern hip-hop itself. When the crown jewel of the culture, the holy, untouchable image of Beyoncé, gets dragged into the same toxic orbit as Diddy's unraveling empire, the damage isn't isolated. It ripples through brands, boards, partnerships, and the carefully protected illusion that certain icons are simply above the mess, which raises the uncomfortable question no one wants to say out loud. Did Pimp's knowledge make him expendable? And now, the feds don't need to leak anything. That's not how they play. They deal in silence, in leverage. That tape, if it's real, isn't meant for the public. It's meant for closed-door meetings, for negotiations, for sliding across tables with no cameras and no quotes. It's a tool, not a headline. A weapon in a war no one knew had already started. And the Carters? They may never see their names in an indictment. But if this is true, they're already backed into a corner, surrounded by whispers, leverage, and the creeping dread that the illusion of invincibility has finally worn too thin.